Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
With the Cup Series on Easter break, but O'Reilly and Truck still rolling, Brian and I figured we'd take an advantage of the break of the draft, taking a week off, and bring in Full Tank with Phil to join us once again to talk trucks. We'll talk a little bit O'Reilly, see if there's any value, anything interesting, kind of overall reactions. Obviously, we will react to the week that was at Martinsville as Brian takes a big drink because his soapbox is prepared, and it's going to get a little crazy. The discourse has been a little wild. I'm pretty I guess I'm not surprised. It always feels like there's something that NASCAR fans are mad about. But Phil, thank you for joining us. Please plug all your stuff off the top. We'll give you your time at the end too, but tell everybody where they can check out your Trucks Pod, the draft, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate it to get the message to come on. That was great because, it gets me off my ass. I was not really going to do much digging into stuff. It got me into the truck stuff early. So I'm pumped to be here. And you could get my Cup Series pods called Full Tank with Phil anywhere. And I'm on the draft, as you mentioned, with Ryan and Tino every Wednesday night at 8:30. We're off this week for the Easter break. But and then for trucks, I use the YouTube channel to put some truck videos up and, dig into some bets for those guys when they are on. And if I can do that. So, yeah, it's been a busy year, and but definitely makes the time go by and have some fun watching these races. So I appreciate being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you joining us. We'd love to get your insight, and I will link to all that stuff down in the description as well. But before Brian rambles for hours and hours and hours, Phil, what's your general takeaway on the Denny Chase deserve to win a meter, all the stuff that we've been going through the past 3 days?
Yeah. So I'm biased because I had Hendrick bet. So I was fine with it. I was also watching the race. We were on like a little mini vacation, and I happened to be able to sneak out with my brother-in-law. We went to a bar and we were just like drinking the whole race at the bar, no volume on the TV. And I was trying to like decipher everything that was happening. And then was just like super hungover the next day. And so I haven't been like very engaged. So I, like I said, biased with the Chase Elliott thing, but it's clear like Denny was the car. And so I guess I'm anxious to hear Brian go here in a second, but I do think like that is something that makes, I don't know, NASCAR just different than like a sport like F1, where like, Denny's the best car from the get-go. He's kicking ass, but there are opportunities for randoms to jump up there and do things. And that's what keeps you watching the whole time, as opposed to just tuning in for qualifying for F1 to see who's going to win the next day. So I think there's an element to it where it's like, I can't be too upset that Denny didn't win or the best car doesn't win on a week-to-week basis. Because I think there's an argument you could make, be like, well, that's what makes it fun to watch, to see who does take strategy play and all that. But fully understand people being miserable when you have a car like that doesn't win. So I know, I'm taking the slightly on the other side of what you're getting here, Brian, but I'm excited to hear you.
Yeah, I'm really tempted to like lay out my thoughts, but I'm just gonna give Brian the floor and let him go bonkers, and then I'll battle back where I see fit. So, Brian, rather than assuming what you are gonna say, because I have we've been doing this a while, I have a good idea where you're coming from, but the floor is yours. Go bonkers.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say, Chase Elliott and Alan Gustafson, they made the call that they had to make that even gave them a shot to win this race. And I think that's where there's a disconnect between my opinion and a lot of other people based on what I was saying, in that I'm not trying to say that like what they did wasn't a race winning move. My big issue with what occurred this past Sunday is the discourse that I knew was going to come from it because of who the driver was. If this was Joey Logano and Paul Wolfe out here making some absurdly early call to come down pit road because they knew their car sucked ass. By the way, this is the first time in the next gen era that the race winner at Martinsville didn't gain any stage points in the race. That just shows you where this car was throughout the day, whether that was just the inability of cars to pass or him actually not having a great long run car, which is why they made the decision to come down pit road early to begin with, because they acknowledged like they couldn't hang on late. So that's the first part of it. I want people to understand is just knowing where as like Speed Freaks pointed out, where the chase sexuals were going to be coming out from and their opinion about this race. Okay, so without me going further on that, I'll go a step further. Watching Actions Detrimental with Denny Hamlin, he, without saying it, basically said there was no fucking reason for them to throw the caution for a rotor part on pit road. Not just was it on pit road, it was on pit road after the pit cycle had completed.
So that video that they showed during the race where the rotor, that was on pit road, that wasn't on the track?
That was on pit road. There was nothing on the track. And every single person that was asked after the race, did you see any brake parts on the track? Were you alerted to this? Nobody said yes. They all said no. So, okay. So, and also too, how many times have we seen in the Cup Series or even the other series where say there's a car part or something that gets on the track, there's a piece of debris on the track, but it's nowhere near the racing line. And the officials say, we're not going to throw the yellow because it's not affecting the racing. So even if there was brake rotor parts on the track, it was so far out of the line up against the wall, nobody was supposed to get near that. And by the way, if you go back to the first stage, Chris Buescher suffered a flat tire because of a piece of an effing shock from the O'Reilly race. How the hell did they miss that? And they called a caution from a piece of brake rotor that nobody else saw.
Yeah,
so that's my second issue.
So we're a lot closer on this than I thought we were gonna be.
Yeah, like look, I'm all for Chase Elliott winning. I think it's great. Yeah. By the way, this is also coming from a person who made 2 championship futures bet before the season started, Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott. So yes, I am very happy that Chase Elliott has a win already. But to come out here and say that they're like this magical team and he went out and earned this and all this shit, get the F out of my face with that stuff. Yeah. Like, well, I don't know this. This is luck to the T. Mathematically, yes, luck doesn't exist in the realistic world. There is always a mathematic possibility that something can happen. And they made that possibility a possibility by choosing the decision that they did. Yeah. That said, the timing of that caution was, I mean, I just don't know what else to say to people to get them to understand like how fortunate they were that came out when it did.
So a couple things. First, they had to make the call. You were right. They did not have a race winning car.
Denny Hamlin said they said it perfectly on Denny Hamlin's car. It was 3rd and 15. So yes, they threw the fucking ball. Yeah, of course they did.
Exactly. But at the same time, it was also a situation where, especially in this format where points matter so much, of course, he's not getting stage points, but a solid finish is huge given where he currently sits and given the long-term outlook and what his potential is, getting himself into one of those top spots. Obviously, not going to win, maybe not win the championship, but he's going to be a hell of a lot closer. And they went, rather than taking a knee before halftime, they said, F it, let's run all 4 verts and just go and see if we can catch a touchdown. Did they get it? They absolutely got it. Was there a lot of like almost pure luck? Sure. But to your point and to what we've been clamoring for is we want tires to matter. We want
But-
cars to be able to get off cycle, and we want things to be able to happen to affect the end of the race. Did they get a lucky break, a questionable caution? Probably, maybe, could be, but they had to put themselves in position, and they had the negative effects where all the chase sexuals, as you talked about, are going to be roasting Alan Gustafson over the coals if it doesn't work out. And he knows, oh shit, I'm gonna put my nuts on the table here and see what happens. And I know this could go really, really poorly for me 95% of the time. But in that 5% outcome, at a track where we've been good, where I know how to win, I'm gonna put my driver in position, and I'm gonna hope that it works out. And that's exactly what happened. Yes, Denny was the best car by a mile, led like almost 300 laps. Probably should have won the race. Interesting to hear Denny talk about. My favorite thing from Actions was listening to him bitch and moan about all the laps they run under caution.
Oh, yeah.
And how TV wants to see the pit stalls and how important that is, and why maybe that's part of why. And Clinton and the guys in the booth going, I don't know. Do you see something on the track? I might see something on the track. Do you see something on the track? And then all of a sudden the caution comes out. It is interesting. I don't want to say like TV has like a strong like influence over how the race plays out, but I don't want to say that they don't have an.
I was just gonna say we can't say it doesn't either at this point.
They definitely have pull. Clearly, they're not going to control the race, but if it's interesting at the end and a little more compelling, and a flag drops, and now we have overtime, and now we have this. I get it from anyone who bet Denny. You had it right from Saturday. He was the best car. He should have won the race. He dominated, but also it was kind of interesting to have a little bit of a storyline in. Like, this is like one of the most like I don't want to say compelling, but like the NASCAR is getting stuff for 3-4 days out of this. This is why I'm convinced that we don't have any any markers in the football for first downs. This is why we have old people behind home plate and baseball games, because this is the shit that gets people talking. And even if it's controversial, and even if it's not the ideal outcome, if it brings more voices, more chatter, it's overall a good look it's overall good for the sport to boost it up.
All right, Phil, you go, please, because I have a little bit more to add to this.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I think hearing you describe frustration coming from folks that are just acting as if, Chase did that himself, that's crazy. Like, to have that mentality is nuts. So yeah, I mean, that's absolutely justified to be mad at those people. Like, your favorite driver can win the race, but you can also acknowledge like they were kind of gifted something, or they weren't the best car. Like, you can have some like humble takes on it while also celebrating. Like, those two things can coexist. Exactly. But to be completely oblivious or act as if this was just pure grit, like getting it done, that's nuts. So yeah, I agree with your take on that 100%. This to me, I tune in every now and then to that Hauler Talk podcast. So this is going to be like the one time this year so far that I've been like interested to be like, when's that dropping? Because I want to hear them discuss that pit road situation. And to your point about what made me think of them was you're saying like TV has sway. Like, they have to be responsible with the way they're talking about it. And if it comes across that they're not being responsible and they are being reckless, then that's a problem, because then that gives the conspiracy theory folks fuel. And the guys on Hauler Talk have said they have the television broadcast up in wherever the hell they are, as well as all the other stuff that, they have. So it very much impacts what is done from the NASCAR side of things. So TV does have to be more responsible. They can't just wish upon, a phantom caution and try to coax that into it. So, I agree. And I do think, the stuff that I was saying previously, like, and like Kyle was saying, random winners and things kind of coming out of left field. These two things are able to happen at the same time. Just this time around definitely has more merit to it when Denny was. That's what makes it even more. It's the exclamation point. He was so good.
Yeah.
And that's what kills it.
And it's not like Phoenix where Bell and Blaney are clearly the two best cars and Blaney ultimately gets him at the end. But if Bell had won, it would have made a lot of sense. I think I'm a little closer to Chase being a better car by the end of the race than I think Brian is willing to get to. But I also appreciate
clean air is an addictive drug to these cars.
Yeah. And we've been talking about this since this new next gen model, like what the difference being in clean air in the front can mean. But he also, like, he did hold off Denny. I also like the Denny Blaney situation and driving him into the wall. I'm pretty, I don't know. But if you told me that didn't happen, I think there's a very real shot that Denny gets back to the lead. And I also think there's a very real shot, and maybe this is more wish casting than anything, as big fans of the 12 team. But I think there's a very real shot by the end that the 12 is making himself known as well, because that long run was coming. And if that phantom caution doesn't come out and there's no incident, we can ifs, ands, buts, whatever. But like the 12 is so good here. And I think if that ends up running, there's a world where he's getting there and it's a 3-man race for the end. And maybe Chase is out of the picture at that point because he doesn't get the caution to stay in front. But like, I do think this race could play out a couple different ways and still be compelling. But ultimately, none of those things happened. And Denny, I think, might have cost himself by moving him up the track and seemingly doing it for no reason.
Yeah, I think ultimately in the end, Denny Hamlin definitely lost this race on his own because he apparently said they acknowledged after the race that they did have a loose wheel that was a result of them not tightening it completely on pit road. It wasn't due to the contact between him and Blaney on the track. Now, the contact definitely put both of them at a major disadvantage. I mean, the fact that Blaney was able to hold on to 6th or wherever he wound up finishing after suffering that type of damage in that instance was quite incredible because like you were saying, I do think there was a legit opportunity. We were going to get a 3-horse race there at the end had that not happened. And then just going back to the whole situation of luck, non-luck, all this other things. Another thing that was just annoying the hell out of me was people can't look at this and not acknowledge that there is some semblance of luck for Chase Elliott when Ross Chastain's team, they made an equally, if not more aggressive call for him to stay out during that whole situation of cautions. And where did he wind up finishing? He finished like 16th, but you don't hear anybody over here lauding them saying, "Oh man, that was a fantastic call. Like, what a brilliant call for the one team." No, because it didn't work. The luck didn't win on their side. So that just shows you we had two opposite results for similar strategy calls, which were based in part on luck happening for themselves. And so you can't look at these two instances and not acknowledge that, yes, there was some level of luck, whether you want to call it that or not, but that helped Chase Elliott win this race.
Yeah, no, he needed the luck for sure, but he also was a much better car. He was
like a 7th to 10th place car pretty much the entire day. The 54 was better. The 22 was better. The 12 was better. The 97 for much of the day was as good, if not better, than the 9 and the 5. I mean, Kyle Larson, I think it's time to start worrying about HMS as a whole, to be honest with you, because had it not been for this call and that caution, we're looking at HMS finishing all 3 of them outside the top 5.
Yeah, no, they were definitely like
not good.
7th, 12th place. And when we hold them to the standard that they have set, it is concerning. And obviously we can keep talking Martinsville if you guys have more on it, but I think as we have the break this week, but we head to Bristol where Kyle Larson opened as a massive favorite, a guy who hasn't won since Kansas won. And I have the odds up on the other screen just because I don't want YouTube to demonetize us again. But Phil, I guess, what's your general stance on HMS and kind of figuring out the body? Obviously, this week might be coming at a good time where they can do some testing and try and figure some stuff out. The guys can all get in the sims and try a few things, but until we see them on track, really being competitive, like ultimately at Phoenix, they got some solid results. They got the win here, but if you look at where they're running throughout the day, if you're looking at kind of what they're producing both Saturday and Sunday, it's not up to their level, and it's got to be concerning from like season long expectation. And we've seen this happen with Ford, but we kind of, it's just Ford, and most of their drivers aren't really, at this level. We saw it happen with Toyota when they shifted. So like clearly there's a adjustment scale, but we think HMS, they got so many people, they got so many and then we got Spire with freaking Daniel Suarez and Carson Hocevar and showing up. We got SVG showing up. Like, it seems like Hendrick should be better, but like, are you willing to give them a little wiggle room? Do you have concerns? Do you think Kyle Larson is interesting this week or next week as we head to Bristol? Like, where's your head at kind of HMS as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, so I think I'm getting like flashbacks or like, similar feelings with some of the other like sports teams that I follow in Philadelphia, like the Phillies and the Eagles. And it's like, we give teams sometimes too much wiggle room, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's like, wait a second, this hole is way too big to get out of. And it's a very frustrating, not fun experience as a fan. So if you are a fan of Hendrick, and NASCAR fans are a little bit more, unreasonable, I think sometimes. So I am worried about Hendrick. And the reason why, I mean, we do this every week. I know you two guys are in the stats and digging through things as well. It's like those names, those three drivers are showing up every single race. Like, this stretch of schedule that we've had is perfect for them. And I, each week, am looking at these names, Byron, Larson, and Elliott to some extent, being like, yeah, this is, I think I've said it 5-6 times, like, this is a get right spot. This is a get right spot. This is a get right spot. And Elliott winning in a, strategy fluke fashion is not getting right. Like, no. They don't pass the eye test. They do not pass the eye test at all. Byron started that race. Like I said, I was watching that in a bar, couldn't hear anything, but was locked in. He started that race. Like, I was like, oh shit, Byron, maybe he's got something today. And then he finished 5th. And like, 5th is good for Carson Hocevar. 5th is not good for William Byron. Like, I refuse to accept 5th if I'm the 2014. And then Larson, to segue into your second question, like, no, I'm not interested at Kyle Larson at plus 350 because he's just been a 7th place car this year. You expect him to put the Superman cape on at some point and just dog walk everyone at these tracks. When you're looking at all of his stats, like, yeah, he's first in driver rating, first in average finish, whatever, like, hasn't had it. So for whatever reason, and they're running out of time, like whatever, 8 races in, 7 races in, he's minus 147 to first, but like 50 some points back to 3rd place, which I think like is our barometer of like what you're going to need to do. I don't know. You could say somebody like Kyle Larson could go on a run, but then you realize how big of a drought he's been in. It's like, oh shit. Like, I don't know. So I definitely have doubts. And I think the wiggle room that you're giving them is all but gone, like just about gone. The wiggle room with this part of the schedule should have been enough for them to start to take control, and they just haven't done it.
Yeah, I think your Eagles comp is a really good one because or even like what the Chiefs were, we were like, Mahomes is going to figure it out. Mahomes is going to figure it out. And he just never did. And Brian, I feel like we were even talking about this like during last year, where it was like, oh, the wins that HMS is getting is like Daytona and Atlanta and
I don't know how many times we've referenced that
Yeah.
last year, but yeah, it was a very common theme for us is like, yeah, these guys are winning races, but they're not necessarily winning the races that you would expect them to win. To Phil's point, like how many times are we going to come into here and say, oh, this is a spot where they're incredible? Like, and yeah, you know, I mistakenly said they all finished outside the top 5, but as Phil said too, a 5th place finish at Martinsville for William Byron, that is not acceptable, especially when he started on the front row. And like he went nowhere but backwards the entire race. The same for the 5 car and the 9 car. He was just mired in that 9th through 12th position the entire race. And so, yeah, like as we head to Bristol, to your point, Kyle, with Larson opening up as a huge favorite based on historical data, despite us seeing the favorites for the most part this year, like the openers come in and be as expected, I don't think that necessarily translates to the 5 for Bristol based on what we've seen to begin this season.
So if not the 5, we got Denny at 6, we got Blaney at 6, we got Bell at 6. All are, you could make, you know, compelling cases. Larson's teammate Byron is 10. Then we're looking at Ty Gibbs, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, and then you start getting into some longer numbers. I mean, for me, it's Denny Hamlin, click, log out. Like, he has been absolutely on fire, dominated Las Vegas, should have won probably Martinsville, was good at Phoenix, not great. Now we head to Bristol, a place where he's been really good, a place where he's been successful, first and second in those last 2 years, I think. You know, been really, really strong. You could make Brian, I'm sure we'll make the case for Ryan Blaney sometime between this week and next week, as somebody who just tends to do better than, you know, he's clearly elevated himself. And then Christopher Bell, who's just kind of not really been like a fixture of winning, could rip open some wins and start making himself interesting. I guess, Brian, are you going to make the case for Blaney? Is Denny a guy for you, or is there someone else that you want to pound the table for as someone, at least as we sit now? Like, obviously, you know, BetMGM is really one of the only books. There's some offshore numbers that you can potentially get down, but like, are you going to take the week, or do you think grabbing Denny or Blaney or somebody at a decent number now, by the time we're talking next week, could be, you know, obviously it's not going to shrink a ton because 6-1 is still short, but you know, maybe there's a little bit of closure between Larson floating a little bit and the other guys getting a little bit shorter?
No, see, with what books have told me this year, with the way that they open numbers and the way that they're reopening, is that I think people are going to adjust, whether it's this week or maybe next, but people are going to start looking at this odds board and going, well, shit, I'm not going to bet any of these guys. I'm just going to wait till practice and see which one unloads with the fastest speed, and then just eat the cost of that super short number, because that seems to be translating the best for Sunday performance. And, you know, we've talked about this the last 2 weeks, where it was basically choose one guy you like amongst these favorites, and that's who you play, and that's who you sit on before the cars hit the track for practice and qualifying. Because if you get too exposed to multiples of these dudes and they wind up unloading like shit, like, you're screwed, because they're not going to be good. And it's going to take a Logano-esque type of move on a Sunday to win these races when your car is not looking that good. And so when looking at the board right now, I mean, obviously I'm not going to play Larson with the way that they've opened up. And outside of Denny at 6, I can't get involved on Christopher Bell, who's been kind of disappointing to begin the season, quite honestly. And Ryan Blaney, I know he's great, and we're definitely all Blaney fans here, but 6-1 for him at Bristol, I just don't know if I can get there without seeing him hit the track.
Yeah. And Phil, I like your strategy a lot of times where you'll get in either on a manufacturer or like a specific team. And then obviously that, you know, you have to go heavier on that, but then you have some flexibility, especially if you go like Toyota or JGR and then come back, you want to hit Blaney. Like, that's super easy to do. Have you found yourself adjusting how you're betting pre-week? Do you tend to just kind of maybe, I'm going to grab JGR because, you know, I like Denny. Bell could be good. Friggin' Tyrone Gibbs might be my favorite bet as the odds sit right now. And I got that locked in. And then when everything settles after practice and qualifying, I can kind of mix in whoever I need to mix in after that, or are you kind of just keeping it the same, doing your normal thing and then adjusting when needed?
Well, one thing that I, and I appreciate you giving that, a little bit of a shout out there. That is how I've had success over the last little bit here on the podcast. And honestly, it's tougher because when you're trying to put some content out midweek, you have to get creative. You have to bring something to the table that people might seem valuable. And that has been working. The one adjustment that I think over the last couple weeks that I was kind of forced to make was like, instead of going manufacturer, I took 2 team bets and played defense around those bets because the manufacturer odds were just so short that I couldn't make it work with unit allocation with other guys. So that has been a thing. And the way I land on something like that is if I can't choose between somebody, like you just ripped off, JGR is who I want to circle. Because Denny is the guy, as you said. Christopher Bell has the stats, but he's got a little bit of Byron in him this year, like disappointment. What's he doing? Like, why isn't he faster? But he's got the stats at Bristol, like, more so than Denny. But Denny qualifies really well at Bristol, at best average starting position. So like, I can't choose between those guys, and I don't want to get beat by a Gibbs or a Briscoe, even coming out of left field. He's had a weird season, but I don't know. He could jump up on a Bristol. So Gibbs is who I want to play as a team bet. And so that's the one like small adjustment is like when I'm trying to play defense around the group type bets, it's been more of a team over the last couple weeks than the manufacturer bet. Unless there's like a manufacturer that gets like no respect at all. And that number is so long that it's worth it. But
but usually that's like Ford, and it's like, well, rather than doing
Ford.
that, I'm just gonna pick off, or like RFK at Darlington. Like they were all really compelling, but like betting Ford at that point, it just didn't really make a lot of sense, especially when you could get Brad at 35 and Priest at a long number and Busher at a longer at 28. Like it's hard to bet RFK or Ford when all the guys are north of 20. But when you're talking about Joe Gibbs, where everyone's like 6, 7, 8, maybe, 10, 12, like it makes a lot more sense to clump those guys together and then hope that, when we're, after practice, after qualifying before Sunday's race, that, now Denny's the favorite and Christopher Bell's right there. And Ty Gibbs, who has been like arguably the second best JGR driver thus far this year, is right there. And then obviously Briscoe can pop. We'll see what's going on with that. But I think that's an interesting way to play it. So, Brian and I are always looking to adjust, fluctuate, trying to find ways to get value. And I think for us, getting to short numbers has been a challenge, but it may be if we're betting even shorter numbers, but knowing we're getting a handful of guys that we think really have potential, you can kind of justify it and go, okay, well, maybe Denny doesn't nail it, but maybe Bell's really good, or maybe Gibbs shortens a lot, or maybe Denny, and then Denny can figure it out on Sunday. Like there's a lot of ways to kind of work through it. So I always like to kind of reevaluate my process, not get too crazy, but definitely think through options and be willing to bet shorter numbers if I feel like I bet Tyler Reddick at 3-1. It did not feel good, but when he gets to victory lane, feels a hell of a lot better than when he doesn't. So I was pretty happy with that.
That kind of goes to what I was just going to add about Kyle Larson, to kind of like bring it back to him for a second. The short number for Kyle Larson, we're all sounding like we're out on that. And so I'm a guy who doesn't get all bent out of shape if I'm on my podcast or I'm on the draft or whatever, and I'm like, I'm out on Larson at that number. Like I'm not going to take him. If he goes out and looks phenomenal, I love that, because that gives you the confidence to take him at a short number down the road. Like I need to see it with some of these guys now. And if I see that, even though, if it's the first time you listen to my podcast and I'm like, I'm not taking Larson, he goes out and dog walks everybody, I look like an idiot to that person. That's fine, because like I want to be able to see it and get that confidence on these guys. And I think the guys that you can feel confident right now in the season are Hamlin and Blaney to me. Those are the two guys that I feel confident every week they're going to have speed. And if they're short numbers and the stats add up, okay, I'll take a short number. But Larson, not right now.
I think too, like in that second tier, we definitely have to start considering Reddick outside of these short tracks. Like everybody knew Martinsville was not going to be a place he was going to perform at, but anytime we go to a fast oval, I definitely think 2311 is somebody to keep in mind, because even Riley Herbst on Saturdays has shown up with legit speed. Now, we don't expect him to run well on Sundays, but for the most part, the 23 and the 45 have been incredible in the races at these regular type of ovals. And so, like, you know, we head to Bristol. Yeah, maybe not in his like wheelhouse for racing style, but I think Reddick is going to be good. We know Bubba Wallace has been pretty good here in the past. I know he's going to have a shit qualifying spot after his little shenanigans this last weekend at Martinsville. But yeah, like to Phil's point, I think I also find myself much more comfortable playing short numbers this year than I ever have. Like in years past, if somebody was like shorter than 5 or even close to that number, I was very reluctant to play this. But a couple of weeks ago when we went to Phoenix, my first click, Brian Blaney at 6. As we went to Darlington, I know it was longer. It was 8. My first click, Tyler Reddick. And then post practice at like Coda, had I not already had Reddick pre, I would have clicked on 5. Like it's Denny Hamlin at Vegas. I should have clicked the number. I didn't. I got it live. And then this last week in Martinsville, Hamlin reopened at 5 somewhere. I clicked because he had the best car. Like,
yeah, he was like 350, and I was like, I can't do that. And I ended up betting him. We'll review the card as we head to Bristol, but I ended up betting him top Toyota, which I'm so happy I did that because that gave me the wiggle room that I needed. Because even though it was like plus 140 to compared to 350, with giving me those outs and looking at kind of who was contending with him in that manufacturer, I was just like, I would rather bet a shorter number, give myself a little more wiggle room in case HMS figures something out, in case something else happens. I had bet Blaney already, so that was obviously, I was trying to have my cake and eat it too. Ultimately didn't get to do that, but yeah. So all right, boys, I think this has been really, really fun. Do we want to talk a little championship futures? Are you guys interested in those numbers at all? Obviously these books are giving us short stuff. We got Hamlin, Reddick, Blaney, Larson in some order at most books. Is there potential value? Like, I don't love giving the books, hey, here's my money, hold it for me for 6 months.
We still have over 7 months.
I know. It's really as much as like we've been through, like we could be talking in September and be like, remember when Tyler Reddick was just like kicking the shit out of everybody, and now the dude can't get a top 10. Bell's did that last year where he was awesome for 3 races. We're like, he's unstoppable. He's like 250 to win the championship, and then he's basically not even in the final 4. He's like, what are we doing? So but like Hamlin obviously at Caesars is 450. I can't bet that, but there's 6 on him. I think it's interesting. I think that the chase format for what he could do is incredible. There's a 750 on Blaney at DraftKings, which I love. I just, with the 10 races, but like beyond there, and that's what we talked about. We talked about those 2 guys being the class of the field. Like, is there anyone else that you guys would even consider, we can get into longer numbers, but like Ty Gibbs is not winning even at 50 to 1. Like Chris Bell or Joey Logano, maybe Chase Briscoe, who clearly isn't the same guy he was last year, or the car isn't there, or him and James Small are starting to have the Truex vibes. I'm not really sure. But getting involved with a lot of these guys feels like a fool's errand, even if the number makes a little sense. I would like to pound the table for Joey Logano, but only because I think it would be funny. But I don't know if that MGM number is real, because if it is, I might have
you're talking about his 30?
30. Is that a real thing? Is that
that's right.
That's a number. 15, 16, no shot. But I would love to see Logano win in this format, because everyone's like, he can't win. Only reason he won is because he got lucky at Vegas, and then we get to Phoenix, and then obviously Penske is awesome there. But Like, do you guys have any interest in any of the names I've mentioned? Any other names I haven't? Like, where's your head at? Or is it just like there are 7 months? I'm not getting involved in this nonsense until, at least after the All-Star break.
I guess I'll go. I had placed a couple futures to start the year. I had luckily I have Reddick, so he obviously his value has gone much shorter than it was at the beginning of the year. So I feel like that in itself is just like a mental win. I don't have to worry about trying to decide if I want him at this number. But I also threw money on Bell and Briscoe, which Briscoe's digging himself a hole that I think is going to be tough to get out of. So for me, like I like the thought process of Hamlin. I like the 750 on Blaney, to be quite honest. If you were looking at some of the top dogs who, like, those are guys who could win the championship. Like they absolutely could. And I also don't, I take futures in every sport because I just love having it out there and like bet it and forget it and come back. So yeah, those two, I would think, like, if let's just put it this way, Hamlin being the shortest right now, right? I think you said 550.
He's like 5 or 550, I think, in places.
Yeah, there is a 6 if you have access to DraftKings, but yeah, he's somewhere between 450 and 550 at most books.
Yeah, so 550 for Hamlin. If he continues to produce, you'd have to consider him top 3.
Yeah.
And if he's top 3, then I think he is definitely, like, maybe not definitely, but 550 would be maybe a gift at that point. Because then at that point, he's what, 25 out?
Right. Well, that's the other thing
lead.
is, even if Reddick, maintains his lead and wins the regular season, he's only 25 points clear of whoever second is.
Exactly.
And we assume that is
snap
likely Hamlin, Larson, Blaney, Bell, like two of those guys are kind of like 2 and 3. And that, I mean, while that's a good jump, it's not insurmountable. And especially when we're talking Homestead, Vegas, Kansas, places where the 11 team can show up, that lead could be gone quick.
Yeah. The other, I'll let Brian go with anything that you have there in a second, but you mentioned Gibbs. So going to guys that can't win, most likely, I would take Gibbs at 50 to 1. I saw NASCAR Money posted he's at 71. I don't know what book that was, but 50 to 1, 70 to 1. Like, he was retweeting a quote that said he's got a 4.7 average finish over the last like 5 races. Like, if that kid can keep that level of production going, yeah, like he's 5th in the standings right now. Yeah. So if he were to sneak in just by if he pulls like a Chase Elliott, just points people to death, then he's right there. And then all of a sudden you get that mental win of like closing line value, when the chase comes around.
CLV Casino.
Yeah, there you go. It just feels good to be like,
but he is somebody that road course he can show up, shorter tracks he can show up, fast tracks he can show up. He's got the JGR backing. Like, there is a lot to, like, if you had to pick someone who was, say, 25 to 1 or longer, or maybe, whatever, he seems like the most logical choice, between, I'd say, him or maybe Logano if you can get that really long one. But it seems like outside of that one book, it's not really viable. But like, Bubba Wallace is another name kind of in that similar range. I mean, other than those two guys, like, I don't think you could make the case. And Gibbs has been more consistent, more reliable, obviously hasn't won, but Bubba's won 2 races. So like, it's not like he's leaps and bounds above him. So I guess those would be the ones for me. Brian, are you any interest in Ty Gibbs?
I actually clicked the button earlier today at 50 offshore. Just to your point, the last 5 races: Coda, road course; Phoenix, short 1 mile flat oval; Las Vegas, intermediate, high speed; Darlington, short track package, intermediate; and then Martinsville, extreme short track. top 6 in all 5 of those races. So he's clearly showing up with speed. They've clearly figured something out with that 54 camp, whether that's the kicking out of Gabe Hart or what. Like, they've definitely figured something out. And to your point, like, we love ourselves some CLV, and I don't think there's anybody on the board right now that you're going to get better closing line value on than the 54 car, because it when you look down the board the rest of the season, I mean, there isn't a single track now where I would go out on the limb and say, oh yeah, Ty Gibbs sucks there. Because he's really improved at a lot of the places where we used to kind of talk a lot of shit, like whether it was tracks where tire wear was important. I mean, he's kind of debunked that early this year with the new package and the new tires, the softer compounds. And he hasn't made crucial mistakes on the track as a race car driver. He has one of the best pit crews in the sport. And so all signs are pointing to him competing there. And he's 5th in the points or 6th in the points. Like, hell, Kyle Larson won the championship last year while not winning a single race in the playoffs. The first driver ever in the history of that format to do that. And
what
so,
a Hendrick narrative that is, by the way. That's just
like
the epitome
it's
of what
been done before in a harder format to do it in.
Yeah.
And so if Gibbs can just go out here and continue to put together these top 10s, top 5s, maybe even find his first victory, which as long as it happens after Carson Hocevar, sure, I'll be happy for him.
It might be happening next week. I've already put some money there.
And okay, just segueing into that, like, Ty Gibbs is now 10-1 to win Bristol at MGM. Just going to show you, like, even the odds makers are like, oh crap, we need to start taking notice for this guy pre-practice.
I did not think this conversation would end up with me clicking Ty Gibbs to win the championship, but here we are. I am on board. I also clicked that 50-1. Let's see if we can cash ourselves a ticket come October.
It's November, and then
or November.
Yeah. Last thing too on the championship format, you know, we talked about this and we debated this early in the year, but I think we really are seeing the books. They're not going to make these guys longer because of how long the season in, as the way the format is working out. Like, even Chase Briscoe, I mean, he is buried and he's like 12 or 14-1 to win the championship. In the previous format, he's like 30 because it's the win and in. Like, anybody can win below him and advance past him. Yeah, and so even the books are like, they're not going to expose themselves to long numbers on these guys, which, I mean, we talked about it, like Ryan Blaney at 750. I am very tempted to add that he's sitting 2nd in the standings right now. And we've barely gotten into the actual tracks where the 12 team really excels at.
And a couple of years ago, we were getting Blaney at massive numbers, getting Chase at almost 100-1 to win the championship because he had to win Martinsville. We were getting Tyler Reddick at massive numbers, and we got him into the Final Four. Like, that is gone. Those days are gone. And I'm curious, as we get into September and even August, do the haves and have-nots really separate even more as it becomes clear on not only obviously say Reddick wins, but like the guys behind him and how much closer they are. And, are we talking about Denny and Blaney and whoever, Bell being 3-1, 250, because we're getting to the end. That's how they're going to start. And then it's a 10-race sprint. And we'll see how it goes. Anything else on Cup Series stuff before we shift the focus, talk a little Rockingham, figure out if there's anything we want to bet, and then getting out of here? All right, let's head to the Rock. Phil, can you give us a little insight on Rockingham in general? Like, how should we be thinking? Like, is there anything in the series that is similar? I know it's a shorter track, but it has a much more banking than Phoenix. Like, how are you kind of thinking about Rockingham in terms of making a card for this week?
Yeah, so Rockingham, it's funny that what played out in Martinsville on Sunday happened like right before Rockingham, because like you go back and you're trying to get a handle on the truck race, and that's pretty much a similar situation what went down last year in the truck race here. So as far as a betting card, I'm excited for this race as a fan. as a gambler, I'm absolutely horrified because I did not have a good Darlington. I got very unlucky at Darlington, and I need to play this conservative. And so what we need to take, they've only been there one time for anyone who's like not familiar, one time in the past, I don't know, 20 or
yeah, I think it's like 23 years or 13 years because they last came here like in 2013 or something.
Yeah, and they only ran 2 races in that stretch. Casey Kane won one, and I think it was like Larson or somebody else. But anyway, one race of value to look back on. And so if you look at that race, what we saw was a couple different things. We had guys who were fast. The Ford camp was fast. You had the front row guys were fast. Riggs was able to drive, not like through the field, but he was able to drive past some guys, got up front in stage 1, was able to get to the front at the end of stage 2. All right. So we had guys like him who were fast. Chandler Smith was fast. Caden Honeycutt was fast. So all these names are guys that we should be looking for when the odds drop on this race to see how the books are looking at it. The reason why I'm skeptical of just going ham on those guys, because they'll probably be short. I mean, I would imagine Riggs would be short, is because tires didn't really matter. And there was a fuel fuck up by like the crew chiefs, like the Ford camp, like ran out of fuel. They just miscalculated. They were, if you look at the end of the race, the stats, like you're like, wow, Chevy dominated. They had like 5, I don't remember, 5 at like the top 7. And you're like, Chevy, wow,
6 of the top 7.
6 of the top 7.
Yeah.
And that was because it was a mix of staying out and the Ford camp miscalculating on fuel and running out of gas. Chandler Smith he just ran out of gas. And so Ford was definitely the camp to reckon with. Chevy took advantage. Tyler Ankrum won that race. He ran like 15th all day long. And what did he do? He took a risk, stayed out, and was able to survive 29 laps or whatever on, fuel mileage and old tires. And it worked. And so as a gambler, I think you need to go into it, depending on how you do like unit allocation or whatever, you look to see where the big dogs are, right? I'm interested in Honeycutt for sure, for a reason I'll get to in a second. And then Riggs, those 2 guys, and maybe a Chandler Smith because of how they performed last year, like so good, and they got a handle on it. Even Heim being in this race might help us because he was okay. He led the most laps, but he ran like 5th most of the race. So he doesn't scare me as much this time around because he didn't really have that like kick-ass Corey Heim type of race. The other guys were better. So you look and see where the bigger guys are. Maybe Heim shifts the odds in our favor a little bit. But then I think it might be worth just a sprinkle on a long shot. Jake Garcia. Jake Garcia looked phenomenal last year. Won the pole, ran top 5. I think he finished like 6th or something, or maybe he did cash a 5. I don't know.
No, he was second in the race.
Yeah, he finished second.
Second. Okay.
And led
He ran
23 laps, the second most laps in the race. Like he was actually really strong.
And so imagine taking him before practice and qualifying, his odds definitely probably went down, but he's not a guy that the books are going to adjust to that much. Like if he's 20-1 to start the race, he wins the pole. He'll be 12-1 maybe. And still in that case, that's good. So it might be worth looking at some of those guys who, if you're confident in their crew chief, making a call so you don't get burned by these like, out of left field type of plays. Or at the bare minimum, play it so conservatively that you're just aware that this kind of thing can happen if the track, plays out in a similar manner this time around. So that's why I say as a fan, I was pumped to get back to Rockingham. But you asked the question I didn't answer. How do you kind of comp it? There really isn't, a direct comp, but I think Darlington plays a factor this week. I think Phoenix plays a factor. They say Dover is a comp track, but they haven't been to Dover in a while. But you just look at Darlington 2 weeks ago. Caden Honeycutt was awesome. And I was off of Honeycutt for a little bit because it was like we said about Larson. I needed him to prove it. Caden Honeycutt stepped up to the plate. And so he is absolutely elevated in my mind as like, okay, he got it. And, this is a comparable type track. We can roll with him for sure, pre-flop. And as long as the odds are, worthy, which I think they will be for a guy like that. So Darlington, Phoenix, you mentioned, the banking, but they're mile type track of like wearing on your tires, Homestead. Those are the types of things. It's just Rockingham last year just didn't give us that like tire wear I think we thought because of the repave. So, but those are tracks that folks I've seen say are worth looking at when you're trying to put together some stats.
I like
I'm
it.
just curious, what do you make of like when Carson Hocevar enters these races? Like he'll be here this weekend in the 77 again, and I know he was pretty good at Darlington as well. Like, how do you handicap a truck race when you have a guy who was as successful as Hocevar was in the series, but he's dropping down and doing a one-off, and he has 0 points worries. So he's going out there balls to the wall, like hair on fire, like he's going for the win. And so how do you look at that from a betting perspective? Because I know personally, like I tend to avoid these guys because their odds are so short.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's usually how it works out. And so for me, I see those guys dropping down. I don't get as scared of them. Like Hocevar will be a factor in most places he goes to in the truck, but he has not been able to get it done since he really left the truck series.
True.
Like I think of like Michigan, I think last year, like he was fast as hell and just did Hocevar things and like put the car into the wall on his own. Like that's the kind of thing that will happen with him. So for him, usually the odds are shorter, like a Chastain, similar situation. Chastain almost won. He should have won that race at Darlington, by the way.
Yeah.
And I was somebody that was not on Chastain.
I had a Chastain ticket myself.
Yeah, I mean, that's a shame. And he should have won. But yeah, and we could get into that. It's a whole other show. But so I kind of look at it as like, all right, let me look at the regular drivers and hope that they get some longer odds because those are the guys who are in it. Those are the guys. And then if I find a way to play those guys, maybe in a head-to-head or a top 5, right? Top 5s have been a decent look for like a Hocevar because for whatever reason, they're not nuking the top 5 as much for the truck and those like Cup Series guys. So I'll play a little defense, but Hocevar, if you're just talking about him specifically, like he's just so boom or bust, and he hasn't been much boom like finishing the races. So he scares me a little bit less, but absolutely was fast a couple weeks ago, and I don't remember him being in the race last year at Rockingham, so that would be another reason to. He was.
Oh, that's a good point.
No, so he wasn't. That's why like Eckes, like McAnally won the race last year, but Eckes, I don't know what to make of him because he was fast at Darlington.
Yeah,
but he's coming now to the Rock where it's like they got to get over the learning curve. Where even some of these other guys who were losers in the truck series, they've got the experience.
To be fair, though, the lower series for some damn reason get like that. They get that full like traditional 50-minute practice.
I know
to make adjustments.
Yeah,
I also like the fact that, especially for Hocevar, Ty Dillon's running this race. They don't have the Cup Series stuff to worry about. I think sometimes when they do like even Larson, when like Vegas, he was like O'Reilly, Cup Series, high limit. Like this dude's just like in a car driving all different styles, and eventually, like it's got to be almost too much. But he can focus on, okay, I'm gonna do my truck thing, and that's all I'm worried about this weekend, and then I can worry about Bristol next weekend.
That's
and obviously, there's probably phone calls and stuff they're figuring out, but they got time. So I think I'm a little more interested in the Cup Series regulars this week, and obviously we're waiting on odds to drop out here on Tuesday night. But if the number makes a little more sense, I think it could be interesting. And I also think it opens up some of the guys that Phil was talking about as potentially a little more juice to the squeeze. Obviously we'll have LaJoy in the 10 truck this week, so that'll be interesting to see. We have Sammy Smith in the 7. He'll be running double duty as O'Reilly is here as well. So I am interested and obviously, excited to have something to watch as we, Cup Series is taking the week off for Easter break.
Something to watch, sir?
Well, I'm not. Yeah, boo. Boo. Yeah, but no, I'm very optimistic. I will throw up O'Reilly odds really quickly just so we can look at that as well.
Oh yeah, they're racing too.
Because they are racing at the Rock and they are live. Gator, Jesse Love. Jesse Love was really good here last time.
I think Jesse Love actually fits into that like conversation with Kyle Larson right now, where the last couple of weeks they've been kind of off from the top tier guys, at least to me from like the eye test.
Yeah. I mean, RCR missing the setup, no one could ever see that coming. But yeah, no, I think he's interesting. Obviously, Allgaier is really good. Sammy Smith running double duty. I don't know that like I'm running to the window, and I think to Phil's point, it might be a fun week where, especially if you don't bet trucks and Xfinity like every single week, it might be a fun week to look for some potential values early, stick them in your pocket, and then come back on Sunday for the race and see if you want to get invested again or just enjoy what enjoy the show. Or I guess Friday and Saturday. Get your tickets ready and enjoy the show.
Yeah. I mean, Smith, I didn't realize Smith won last year. So the fact that he's doing double
Jesse
duty.
Love won last year, or at least based on what win the race has. Sammy Smith was second.
Did he get disqualified or something? What am I looking at? Race results at. Oh, never mind. I'm looking at the wrong race. That's my fault. No, Rockingham.
Brian, I'm once again asking you how much Parker Retzlaff we can have on the card, because he feels like he's constantly undervalued, and he was awesome here last year. He was a qualified second, finished third. That dude's just a good driver.
Dude, Jesse
Parker
Love got
Retzlaff is the.
Oh, did he?
Wait, what happened?
Sorry, Jesse Love got DQ'd last year.
Okay.
That's why. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so to me, Parker Retzlaff is the O'Reilly's series version of Carson Hocevar without the Hocevar antics. Or
he's Joey Logano. He's nerdy and skinny, and he's gonna get.
Yeah, but he's also not an a-hole though. Like, and he's not out here wrecking other people for positions. He's just out there with legit speed.
Yeah. And
like it's taking the books quite a while to adjust to that, because where there are like top 10 odds offered for the O'Reilly series, which are few and far between, his numbers are still ridiculously long for a car that keeps showing up with speed.
Yeah. I don't remember where we got it last year, but we hit a home run with Parker Retzlaff, and it was really nice. So yeah, I will be paying attention to kind of some of his placements. He's 33-1. Feels like a good place to be. Maybe there's some opportunity there. We'll see as more markets open up. Obviously, that will be Saturday, same day as the Final Four. So where Brian's attention will be. I'll
be there. So
right, exactly. And you'll have your phone up with the O'Reilly race watching it.
You're not lying, especially with the games not starting until 6 p.m. out there. So
yeah.
Last year I was way more into the O'Reilly race because Casey Kane was running, and
that's right. That was this one.
I had the shirt and everything, and goddamn Catherine Legg takes him out, and he was running like fourth.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he was running. I had a top 5 on Kane last year here. Yeah,
Catherine Legg
had
no business being out
people out of the way. O'Reilly and Cup.
Look, I agree with a lot of the sentiment that most of the Cup Series is talking about, and we even heard Christopher Bell say this in Vegas about the lack of actual on-track practice is severely cutting into the ability for these people that are trying to make it in the sport. Like an SVG, for instance, the ability for him to get as good as he has, as quickly as he has, without that on-track practice is extremely impressive, because I mean, I said this last year too. Most of the drivers in this sport had ran more ovals by the time they were like 10 years old than SVG has in his entire life.
Yeah, like Kyle Busch's kid, Keelan Harvick. They've
exactly. That's
they've
what I
all
mean.
done more
So,
oval work than SVG, who's
like
the thing uses
even
their
Catherine
bad
Legg, like she's an accomplished race car driver.
Yeah.
If she was given time to practice properly and go through the ranks, sure, she'd probably be probably a back marker, but I mean she wouldn't be out there causing wrecks.
Yeah, she wouldn't be 3 seconds off the pace.
Hey, no, she's not the 66 car.
Oh. And I think with the extra horsepower and stuff, it's got to be even harder to make that transition.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, boys, we've gone over an hour. We had lots of good conversation. Brian got his rants out of the way. Make sure you're checking out Full Tank with Phil, and you're also checking out his YouTube. I'll link to both down in the description, so you can get his full betting card for the trucks for Cup Series when that's back. Obviously, tune into the draft every Wednesday. A really, really fun conversation, drafting teams, having some game theory, and then obviously the chat is another great place to be.
And you get quite literally the best motivational speech of all time in the history of NASCAR betting.
And sometimes they work out, and sometimes
it did work out because he was damn good. He was right there.
Yeah, I was like, I told you I was at that bar, and when he ran into the wall, I was like, and like the people like the bartender's like, yeah, there's some kids behind you. I'm like, did you see it happen? Like that was terrible. I'm
so glad you brought that up because just not to like rehash our opening banter, but
I'm gonna do it.
That occurrence right there, I think, is what set me off.
Yeah.
It was the first time all season where I audibly said, "You mother!" Like I was so angry that Denny walled him.
Yeah, and it's not like it was a Bubba Wallace thing where he's like, sure, it's not great if you're like a host of our top 10 or something, but
yeah,
like for the ultimate end goal, like that wreck didn't have as much of an, or maybe it did because it was able to reset things with a caution. I don't know, but
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I appreciate it. I gave my all last week. It didn't pan out, but it was still fun.
Yeah. So we had a good time. We got to chat through a lot of things. Let Brian have his moment to get his thoughts off, and we had some good conversations. I did a full write-up on the newsletter, aoppodcast.substack.com. Once again, aoppodcast.substack.com. Wrote up my thoughts on the race, the chase of it all, the Denny of it all, as well as some futures and a look at Bristol. Really appreciate Phil hopping on, talking. Make sure you go check out all of his great work. I will drop all that in the comments as NASCAR takes the weekend off, and Brian will be at the Final Four. We will also be off this weekend, but we will be back and ready to go for Bristol. We'll be back to in your feed Wednesday, and then obviously get ready for the race. Bristol's not a Saturday race this week, right? That's a fall thing.
I think that's the night race.
The night
in the
race,
fall.
Yeah, in the fall. So we'll be back on our normal schedule starting on Tuesday. Make sure you build the draft and all of Phil's content into that schedule as well. We'll look to bet some trucks potentially, bet some O'Reilly potentially. Parker Retzlaff will be featured. And then we'll be back next week to talk all things Bristol. Very excited for that. And it's Masters week, so I'll be excited. Brian will talk crap about how golf is stupid, and it'll all work out. So make sure you click the like button on the way out. Make sure you click subscribe and go check out Win the Race, which is doing $300 for the rest of the NASCAR year. And we just talked about how there's 7 months left. Like, just divide that up and figure out the math. Like, it makes too much sense. The Discord is incredible. The tools are incredible. The sims for trucks, for O'Reilly, for Cup Series, so much good stuff going into that site, and they're constantly working on it. They're pushing updates right now to get it ready, so when we come back from Easter break, the Cup Series stuff is all new and improved and even better. So get in while you can. Now is a great time. The price makes sense. The content is incredible, and Brian and I are in there often. Brian mixing it up in the Discord a lot more than I am, but still mucking it up with the boys. Phil, once again, thank you so much. We'll be back next week. Enjoy your week, enjoy your Easter, and we'll be back to talk some Bristol, baby. You guys have a good one.